The Broken Dub podcast analyzes what makes Olympic athletes, comedians, writers, and creatives great. Season 1 is titled Breakthroughs. This season of the podcast delves into the breakthroughs we have in our respective fields when we destigmatize mental health and move past the roadblocks within our minds. Executive produced by Ellen Utrecht of Mike TV. Smash the like, subscribe, follow, you know the drill. This is the Broken Dub podcast, and I'm your host, Danny Simmons. Born in the dojo, you guys, we are lucky to have the maestro, the sensei, the beast with a smile, Kamran Madani. He's a black belt, probably a triple black belt, red belt. I don't even know what it is. Maroon, it might be pink. The most advanced you can possibly get. He's a podcast host, but he's not just the hostess with the mostest. He's a maestro of karate, and he's going for his master's in sports psychology at the University of Colorado. He's moving mountains in karate. He's a king. He is the king of a true royalty. You will see royalty at his dojo. Father, mother, everyone. That's where he grew up. So he's a junior world champion. He's a bronze medalist in 2011. He's won so many championships, about 1,000, but he's got 15 total national champs. And he's got a bronze medal and a U.S. Open gold medal, University World Championship 2018 gold medalist, North American Cup 2018 gold medalist, Pan American Championship bronze medalist in 2017 and 2014. He's a savage. He's also really nice, but, watch out because he'll hit you with a 1-2 real quick. So with no further ado, we have Karate Cam Madani here. Thanks for coming out, brother.
Oh my gosh, what an intro. Thank you so much for having me, man. I don't think I've had that much hype in my life before. That was awesome.
You got to hit the Jamaican air horn after that. And I'm doing it in the most ridiculous sweatsuit ever. I don't know. I'm like, I got to
You're just catching the Russian mobster feels. The extra badass,
I swear to God, this guy,
this guy right here.
No, but how you doing today, brother? And
man, I'm great. No, thank you for having me. I think just like in hearing the intro and hearing everything coming together, asking people that, everybody, hold on, let me backtrack and just say everybody has to perform on a daily basis in their own lives, and then trying to find similarities between different like high performing individuals, right? In what you're doing here, I think is a great thing for everybody, including the people on the podcast, to find tools to help them move forward with, within their own lives. So it's great. This is good stuff.
I mean, I got to be honest, dude. It's an interesting thing. Like, I will botch it's either I botch a name or I fumble over something, but that's how it is in life. You're like, just keep rolling with the punches. I'm learning. We're both new. You're new to podcasting. You Believe in the Punch, podcast. You can obviously follow on Spotify, Google, all the platforms. It's a great podcast. I've listened to you interview, I want to say, maestros that are much, they have sage advice on the game of karate, and it's just a very focused podcast, and you're a great interviewer as well. So it's cool to see, have you in the roles reverse. How's this going so far?
I mean, this is great. And I mean, when in my podcast, and I think that's something that we relate on, obviously, like I said it before we started, but you're the sensei in the world of, podcasting and interviewing and directing and all that stuff. Right. So, me, I'm the newbie on the block, but the goal with that has just been to essentially interview people that are not only my friends, but high level individuals within the industry of karate, but then, branching out to other combat sports as well. Because I think there's a lot of similarities between combat sports in general, right? Like a punch is a punch, right? Whether it goes from MMA to boxing to karate, you're still throwing a punch. And the values that follow behind that punch are very similar throughout the sports as well. So that's what I'm trying to highlight.
So I have a question. Obviously, you touched upon it a little bit. MMA. Any interest? I mean, obviously we have Wonder Boy, right? We know that karate does very well in mixed martial arts. Has anybody ever tried to get you to do that, or any interest?
So me personally, nobody's like ever like scouted me or anything, but like, you need to do this. I'm probably because I'm too nice of a person. But no, I like, so the Muscle Farm, the supplement company used to have their training facility out here in Colorado. And I went there a few times, met some great coaches. They had a super awesome facility, and like Matt Brown, TJ Dillashaw before he moved out to California. There was like some big time names, that were there, and I met them, and they're awesome people. But And they were like, hey, if you want to come spar or train here and stuff like that, that'd be cool. But I mean, like my life is surrounded by the family business of running our dojo and stuff like that. So it just never happened to be. I never really had the interest of going full time like MMA. As far as like skill set and stuff, I have so much respect for those guys, and like trying to get in touch with Justin Gaethje, another awesome guy who lives 20 minutes from me, and talk to him about some cool stuff regarding martial arts. But yeah, no, I never actually had a huge desire or anything. I'm a fan of the sport and I appreciate what they do, but I don't know if I'll go that direction.
No, it's a whole different beast, right? I mean, it's fight to the death. I mean, yeah. Right? I mean, it's like people are like, oh yeah, no, it's sport. You're like, well, it's fight to the death. Let's be
modern day gladiators. Is what it is. You're trying to take the other person's head off. And like again, like karate, obviously, like from its roots, where you have to have that mentality. But our sport is bound with some rules, and not being able to like totally diminish the opponent's ability to keep fighting.
Yeah, it's cool. And so what's a day, obviously you're working at the family dojo, you have your you're going to school. What's a day in the life look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm still training full time with COVID and everything, still trying to maintain. We got our own little bubble here with some of the training partners. Basically I average around 2 practices a day, and then, 2 workouts a day, and then we're running the show as far as the business on in between that, and then whatever time I have set aside or whatever time I could find is designated for school and other hobbies like the podcast. I have a girlfriend too, so I guess that fits in there. So
you got it. I mean, come on. Well, that's obviously priority. Let's be real. It's
it is. Yeah.
It's like, come on, you got because love always comes first, and the sacrifices we make. You're like, I could have been an MMA fighter, but
I'm sorry, but I wanted to enjoy somebody in my life.
Yeah. Have you ever had any? Karate obviously is such a physical sport. We've seen it in Cobra Kai, and by that I mean I'm obsessed with Cobra Kai. So, and we've talked about this before. So, have you had any injuries that you recently or
knock on wood, right?
Yeah.
Nothing huge.
Mm-hmm.
So, like within our sport, the thing that you see the most is like anything related to your face, and then essentially muscle, anything to do with muscles, whether it's like tears, strains, pulls, those things happen. Because like when you're training, you're conditioning your body to take hits. Like, because every single day you're taking hits, your body's taking hits. So like, obviously bruises and things of that nature happen, or you might take one shot that, takes the breath out of you for a second, but like you recover from those things. So for me, like, like a lot of muscle strains, pulls, injuries. Like I've had bone bruises in my hand before, from either catching a kick the wrong way or punching and it just hits the wrong way and stuff like that. And we train through those things. So I guess the part B to that is like you have to rehab, but not rehab at the same time. Like you're still training through those injuries, so they last a long time. But the ones that I highlight for me, I fractured my nose 4 times. And then, so small breaks. That's why it's so giant. Yeah.
And then, we all have an excuse. Mine is not that. Mine is just genetic. Yeah.
and then I've 3 orbital bone fractures. So 2 below the eye and 1 above the eye on my right side.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does that feel like when that happens? It
sucks. It sucks real. I just my whole face just went into pain real quick. Or the second one is kind of it's like a funny but gruesome story. I didn't know I fractured my underneath because so backtrack. I took a heel to the top and bottom, and that's what did it the first time. And like I got concussed, and I went to the hospital immediately, all that stuff. But then like, let's say like a year and a half going on 2 years later, I got hit in the same spot underneath the eye from where it was originally fractured. Right.
Wow.
And I didn't know that it was like that. It didn't swell up immediately. But like what happened was that night I was in Rio for one of the Pan American championships. And then I get back into the hotel that night and we're recovering, me and my roommate, and we're just, doing our thing and chatting and debriefing from the day. And I go to blow my nose before I go to sleep. And then all this fluid just puffs up into my eye and it shuts. It swells up. The whole thing swells shut. And then he starts laughing his ass off. And I'm like, bro, I can't see what happened and all this stuff. So it's like midnight and we're like knocking on the team doctor's door, like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's like, dude, Cam's eye just shut close. He just blew his nose. And it was like, oh my God, what happened? And they were like, yeah, you definitely got another fracture in there. And that's what happened. Essentially, when you put the pressure on, all that fluid didn't have anywhere to go. So,
because it was cracked.
Exactly. From my nasal passage. And it went all in.
Wow. Yeah. Any CTE? I mean, obviously, so you have a couple concussions. Is there any concerns with CTE? Is that more like from football, or do you have any of those long lasting head trauma issues?
So again, knock on wood, not me personally, but like it's definitely like there's a liability for that because you're getting. We're training. Like I've been training since I was 5, like formally since I was 5. And, you take hits as a kid too. Yeah. Whether it's kicks, punches, whatever, and I've had 3-4 concussions, throughout my whole career. So it's not like anything, but then thank God none of them were like severe. I've only been knocked out per se like once.
Dude, I gotta tell you what, those are incredible numbers.
Yeah.
I think I sparred once with my buddy and in my front yard he knocked me out cold pretty quick. So it's not, that is incredible. For a whole lifetime of brawling, you have like one knockout. Right. You've got a great chin. Holy cow.
No, I don't even know if it's that. It's just I just don't like getting hit, so I try to avoid it. But no, as far as like long lasting, it's definitely like a possibility and like a liability of what you do within like a combat sport. But thank God, like a lot of the precautions that have gone into karate, especially sport karate, are like for the safety of the athletes because we want longevity, and like as you see within like a lot of like, especially I think MMA, like UFC is like a good way to look at it because like a lot of those guys don't hit their prime until their early to mid 30s. Mm-hmm. And like karate, while it's not the exact same time frame, like that's what we want to ensure, like longevity within the sport. So like our gloves have like they're a little bit bigger gloves, right? So they're not like a boxing glove, but they're not an MMA glove. I'd say they're right in between. And then depending on the brand, the ounce count might be a little bit different. But like it does, obviously it hurts to get hit, but like it's not suffering every single time.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because those boxers, they take so many blows over and over and over again, and those big 16-ounce mitts, they found that actually the CT is worse in boxing than MMA. So it's a unique thing. I mean, we see these guys go straight cold, kicks to the head, and somehow boxers get it worse. It might just be the training. Who knows? I mean, it's still, those are great numbers, and karate does. It seems like you guys wear the headgear. You have it a little bit more dialed and have sort of been on that tip for a long time, right?
Well, we don't wear headgear, so no headgear for us. We wear, so we got those gloves, and then so for international circuit or international competitions, we have to wear a chest guard.
Okay.
It's like this thin pad, essentially that goes from like right about your collarbones right to your waistline, and then shin guards and foot pads. So like if you've seen a lot of the MMA guys when they're sparring. And like in their gyms and everything, they'll wear those like foot coverings and like something to cover up their shin. It's very similar to that, and that's what we use for competition.
Yeah, dude, I have one. I was the sensei at the gym that I did a little bit of MMA training at. Let me just tell you, Karan Darbedian, total badass. He's actually he's one of the few fighters who beat Tony Ferguson. So he made me spar him, and it's almost a joke. Let's be real. I am like 250 pounds, so I do have that. I am an enormous human, and he would just stalk me down the whole gym. I remember even with the shin guards front, I kicked him. I went to like whatever, just like I don't know what you call a roundhouse kick, and he just checked it with his elbow. Dude, I had a bone bruise for like 4 months.
It sucks. It still sucks.
It's the worst feeling.
Even with a pad, even to the shin, he elbowed my shin or checked it with and he just like, I was like, holy cow, it was the most painful thing. So no matter what you wear, if someone knows what they're doing, it is awful.
That was the worst.
It does. It really does. It's, I mean, and granted, like you got to think about, right? And you know, right? When like, it's just like the blunt force of just getting hit. Like I mean, a pad is only going to do so much when you have 1,000-pound force of a kick coming behind it. You know what I'm saying?
And dude, just one elbow. Yeah. I mean, it's like, how the hell?
So what's it like growing up in a karate family? Like, honestly, you know, is it just normal for you, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, normal for me, but not for anybody else, right? Like, yeah. Yeah. So I was born into the dojo. My dad started our dojo, which is now like a worldwide organization. We have locations all over the world now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, he started it up in 1990, and then I was born in 96. And my mom was still training while she was pregnant with me until the day before she gave birth. Yeah, like straight up, like came out the womb.
Kicking. Came out the womb kicking. Yes.
You know? And man, I started up, you know, we were in the dojo every single day, like, you know, because like a lot of times my parents would find babysitters through the dojo, right? So like they'd be teaching class, and like there'd be, you know, like one of the teenage kids would be taking care of me as like as a youngin'. And then I started when I was 5, but I was like a little rascal, man. Like I wasn't paying attention. I was wild. I was a little wild kid. So my parents like took me out until, you know, yeah. And then like we had to wait a year. So I like formally started again when I was 6, but I just didn't listen or anything like that. So I was crazy.
Really? So you were a naughty child. Yeah.
I was.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, Sensei's my dad. All right. Back off, dude. You guys know.
And then, and then what about your dad? What's his story in getting into karate? How was that?
Yeah, man. So my dad, so both of my parents are originally from Iran. Mm-hmm. And they didn't meet there. They met in the States. But my dad, he started karate when he was 12 behind his parents' back. He was like doing it in secret, started at a dojo back in Iran, and they didn't know because they would take him out and stuff like that. But it grew, and my dad, you know, when he left Iran, he lived in Japan for a while, lived in England for a while, and was training consistently under all the big senseis you could imagine. And then eventually made his way to the U.S. And he studied out here, but was still training, still found a dojo, straight roots from Japan. Like he's OG. Like we have foot pads and stuff now, but his karate was like no pads, you know, like almost like bare knuckle, right? For everything. Cool. And yeah, he like OG, man. Like when I say that, no exaggeration, you know. And and then yeah, man. And then eventually he broke off from like the organization and stuff and decided to start his own, and that's how the dojo came about. And then eventually, after meeting my mom started later. She like met him, and he was like, "Hey, part of the contingency is you got to train too," you know. I guess. And now she's one of the most like high-ranking individuals within the world of karate now. So it's crazy to see how everything kind of came together.
Wow. So he's just a great teacher and inspiration, and it's
the best.
Cool to have and how did that inspire you? Obviously you went into karate, you followed in the footsteps, and same with your sister, same with your mother. How does that take you to sports psychology? Where's that transition?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess we got to track it a little bit here. Because I started karate, and it was always I just didn't know anything else. Right. Mm-hmm. Like my parents, and I'm not, and this is like the most respectful way, like they never came to any of my other games. And within I'd say like 5% of my games when I was doing other sports, it's just because, and I didn't think anything of it because I knew the dojo, you know, opened at 5 and closed at 9 every single day, you know, and then, you know, I had to figure out rides to get to other things and stuff like that. And that's just the way it was. And, but like, that was normal for me. And, eventually I came to the realization that that's not normal for everybody. Right. So then I was doing other sports and things. And I'm giving you the long answer to your question, but I think it's important because like noting like how things progressed is basically my sports psychology story. So I'd say sophomore year of high school, I was playing basketball. I was like serious, man. I was like, as the 5'11" kid I am, I thought I was going to become all pro and everything, right?
Yeah, right.
Playing JV, right?
In Colorado.
Right. In Colorado. That's, it doesn't, there's not much of a better setup than that. Right. So, at the same time I was still training and doing all those things. And I had already been on the junior national team, was already sponsored. No, I wasn't sponsored yet, but, I made it on the junior team, went to my first world championships when I was 15.
Wow.
And got a bronze medal, and that was, I was the first and only male to ever get a medal at the world championships from the US in fighting. So as a junior, not as a senior. Right. And that was cool. And that brought about a whole bunch of opportunities as far as sponsorships and, just love, I got inducted to the Colorado Hall of Fame at that point. And it was just it was this thing, it essentially picked up. Right. And I was in the not magazines, Denver Post and news and all that stuff. Right. And at that point in time, I decided to go full-time karate. We should just put everything else. I don't think it's working out with anything else.
Yeah.
And man, and then that's where it kind of started, right? Going into my late teens, the pressure of, being that individual, both for our organization and setting the expectations for myself and some pressures I felt from coaches and stuff like that at the time essentially ate away at me. And going into my late teens, I hit some in heavy depression, heavy bad moments, was, I near death essentially twice. I'm going to leave it at that. I got to that point, in
Really?
my late teens and it was, and shout out to both of my parents, obviously, but my dad was the one who helped me out the most throughout that time. He was like, man, whatever we need to do to help you, let's do it. And I tried everything and nothing was working.
Right.
And, I was just like, man, I feel like shit. Every single day I wake up, I'm like, man, I want to go down the wrong path, right? I don't want to do this. I don't know, why I have all these talents, but why doesn't it feel right to do that? And all these questions, right? And being a lost teenager was just a mess in its own. And it was right on the cusp of when I was moving from juniors to seniors, which means you're 18, you're eligible to go for our what I would call professional, right? For karate. And it was not an easy transition for me. I was losing. I went a stint of 17, 18 months of not winning a single competition.
Wow.
It was just I did not have my feet underneath me. And essentially what happened at that point was, we had a guy his name is Bob Davis in the dojo. And, he is a psychiatrist and he's known me since I was a little kid, baby, he's been in the dojo forever, and at that point in time, my parents, whoa, I'm so sorry.
No, your money. Dog gotta eat.
Yeah, I guess so. I was a little pup, it just went all
So cute.
And so Bob Davis was here at the dojo, and my dad was mom and dad were hey, just talk to him one time, see how it goes. Maybe he can help you out. And we've tried everything. Okay, sounds good. And that, man, changed everything for me. That changed everything. And I was like, man, is there any industry for people to do this for athletes? And he was like, you numbnut, it's sports psychology. What are you talking about? I was like, what? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I didn't know this was a thing. And boom, that's how it started up. And then so between him and then one of the U.S. national team coaches right now, his name is Akira Fukuda. He's actually my first guest on my podcast. Yeah, he's episode number 1 was with him. He's my mentor, and he was the one that solidified the seal of approval for sports psychology, because he's my sports psychologist, but he's also a licensed sports psychologist. And then between that, man, everything started coming together, and I was essentially, the goal was I never want anybody to ever feel what I felt at that point in time, and the hopelessness and the despair, depression, anxiety, everything that was built up. And for all the students that I teach now, I want to be able to be the person that helps them through that moment. You know what I'm saying? And that was essentially the motivation for why to go into sports psychology.
That's cool. And what was that like experiencing, you said you had a couple, near death moments. Is that something you were questioning, even committing suicide? Is that you were having suicidal thoughts? And if that's the case, what do you say to people? This is something that's a lot of people are talking about this more now than ever.
Right.
How do you fight that? Obviously you're a fighter, so our mind is a muscle. And how did you train your mind, unpack that and train your mind out of that battle?
Yeah. And so that was exactly what it was, right? there was 2 instances in particular where I was on the verge of, or thought about committing suicide. And it sucks, man. It sucks being in that point, but unfortunately the way it was for me, it was I found it to be easier to go that route than wanting to fight against it. you know? And I think that was like realizing that I was like, oh my gosh, like that in itself needs to change. And the thing that stood out after that was, okay, I obviously don't like feeling this way, but it's like it's become a routine now. So then how do we back out of this routine? And everybody thinks that it needs to be like giant changes, right? Like, oh, I need to make lifestyle changes within my eating. I need to exercise more. I need to like try and tackle this ginormous, you know, chunk of pie. When for me, that wasn't it. It was like as soon as I started working with Bob, he was just like, well, why don't you start journaling? Like simple as that. It was just like, why don't you just like write out how you're feeling? I was like, wait, what? Like, it doesn't have to be 10 things at once. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, just do one thing, you know, and like, and then eventually from there, you start working like different brain muscles. Right. So, and then, you know, you come into a routine and then things can build up from there. But so like, I guess the first thing was realizing that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to tackle everything at once. It can be one, you know, smaller things, and then you build up from there. And then part two is like, I need to get my feet underneath me. How am I going to center? You know, like just like in the same ways in a match, right? Like if I get scored on, obviously you don't like to get hit or scored on in a fight, but like, what do you do to recenter? Like, just like get yourself back, right? Just like take yourself out of the moment for a second and just be like, okay, hey, I'm here. I'm good. Things like I'm still moving. I'm still all right. Okay, now I can move forward. You know what I'm saying? And then revisit that situation. I think that's what happens a lot too. Is like the snowball effect, right? One bad thing happens and you're still thinking about that thing as you move on to the next thing in your day. And then that doesn't go right. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then it just picks up and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So like, those would be the two things that I would say like would be a good starting point. It's just like, you know, realize that you don't have to do everything. Start with something small. So for me, it was journaling. And then I got hooked on meditation. And it was like those 5-minute, like go to YouTube meditations, man. Like it was just like the most small, like not informal thing you could imagine. Right. But it was just like starting with something, you know, and it doesn't have to be those 10 things. And then the other thing was figure out how to reset, like quick resets. Like just because the first half of your day was shitty doesn't mean the second half of the day is going to be that way, you know? And like being able to reevaluate and just like, boom, okay, it's 11 a.m. All right, I got to do this now. Okay, let's go for it, you know, and go from there.
Well, that's beautiful. And thanks for opening up. I got to say, you know, these now more than ever, it's important for leaders like yourself to kind of open up about the vulnerabilities we have in our minds, because obviously most people, even for me from the outside, you're like, okay, this guy's killing it, slaying it, whatever the terminology is. You know, I too have this similar struggle. Mine was later in life. I'm still I'm the jolliest guy you'll ever meet. Jolly giant, truly. You know, but like at 27, I had it didn't happen in my teens. But I have bipolar disorder, it's actually more mania. I have these depressive thoughts, but I feel that, and I just kind of run away from that deep, dark pit. But my grandma committed suicide, so that's a thing. So it's in there. There's some whatever that is, and it happened way late in life, you know. And those things are sometimes they're genetic. We actually don't understand this. I mean, we're trying to figure out the psychology of it. But I agree with you. For me, I've been doing the run, which is, I'm such an awkward runner, but I do it. You know, running. I also take medicine. That's the other thing. So I kind of go into that angle. The take your pill. You know. Run. Journaling is good. I need to do more of that. But writing, I have a therapist who's David Silverman. He's an Emmy award-winning therapist. I mean, how privileged am I?
What?
Yeah, I know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he wrote the
Flintstones movie, and he's like, "Hey, here's what you got to do." You know, this is how.
Gosh.
Yeah, isn't that? It's so LA. But he's like, "Hey, here's what you got to do. Write this thing. It's going to make you feel better." And the same thing. Write down your thoughts. Meditate. I mean, I'm a Deepak Chopra go right before bed guy, and there's something about that sultry voice, that sultry YouTube video that it's free, right? So yeah, everybody's in on it. LeBron James with Calm, it's really, and I appreciate you sharing, because more people, especially in your dojo or just online, are going to say, "Oh wow, Dan has this thing and he's overcoming it, and he's using all of these tools," and we can kind of share these free tools and give access to things that obviously it's your psychiatrist. You know, Bob's probably charging $450 an hour, and he's like, "Dude, journal."
Yeah, right.
So boom, there's $450 in free services. So
shout out to you for opening up as well. You know what I'm saying? You know, like it's like it's hard because moments like that are like the vulnerable times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not even like you're like reflecting on hard times in life. Okay, everybody has hard times, but like the parts where like you're specifically vulnerable. You know, you're like, I don't really want to talk about this, but it's important because it would help. You know,
It could.
Yeah, right. No, for sure.
Who knows? It might just be helping us, right? It's just, I don't know.
Just shooting the breeze with my boy Dan. It's
Yeah,
fun.
It's pretty weird. Everyone I know who's a genius has opened up about their mental health or experiencing some sort of weakness in their mind, and it's like your Achilles heel can also become your growth hedge or your silver lining to this cloud, and it probably powers you. And I'm sure that, I mean, I've seen it in your dojo. You guys have you have such a strong following, and seeing the growth of how many people you're going to inspire. It's incredible. And also, I mean, what's next? I mean, you get your master's in sports psychology. What's the next thing? Are you going to start writing books? How does this go?
Well, I don't know about book writing. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll stick with podcasting for right now. But I mean, obviously, I want to become a licensed sports psychologist. And here's the thing. So a lot of people are coining the term, like they don't like sports psychologists because they think they're shrinks. So I have to say we're now mental strength coaches. That's mental strength coaches, right? Like,
yes.
My professor would get the professor would get mad if I didn't say that. So,
mental strength. And is that
mental
like
strength coaches? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's time for some euphemisms. How does that make you feel, that terminology?
Well, it's more of like it makes it right, because like when you think of like a lot of people, I think don't need everything. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be just that one little specific thing that help. All right, well, for Danny, it's his run, or like figuring out how to maximize and like make your run more efficient to help you boost other parts of your life or whatever it is. But a lot of people just need, like, the same way they train physical muscles, right? You go to strength and conditioning to train your body, right? So we want to have the same outlook on your mind and like mental strength training, right? One of the classes I'm taking is literally called mental strength and conditioning. We have this thing called the pre-performance, performance, and then post-performance routine. So it's like a routine that you would run before every single workout, right? And it's like the same routine. And that routine involves like the same stretch warm up, the same, mental process. If you meditate before your workouts, that's what you do. And like, that's essentially what I would run through my pre-performance routine in order to get into the right space for my training session or my competition or anything like that. It's like a 20-minute solid routine of like how I go through my warm-up and then what I'm thinking about during that warm-up, right? So I'm letting go of anything that led up or would be after my training session, just thinking about what I'm doing in my warm-up, right? So like if I'm going through a certain stretch or a certain movement, like I'm focusing on all the pinpoint things, like targeting of my punches, how my hips are rounding out for my kicks. I'm not thinking about anything other than what I'm doing in the moment. But like for my competition, like my pre-performance routine is about an hour and 15 minutes of just prep and like getting myself into a good state before that. But yeah, that's how I get into that flow state.
Cool. I mean, yeah, that's very specific. And yeah, I obviously would, it takes, so you're probably like, dude, in order to break down an hour and 15 minutes, I need an hour and 15 minutes, right?
Exactly.
Sorry,
it's sort of a lot of work. So yeah, I had a guy, I always wish I had a better routine and I was more meticulous with it. I think it was one of my weaknesses. I didn't know, I had a lot of, when I look back, even we had a sports psychologist. We had, I want to say her name was Rhonda Hackshaw. We also had Ken Revisa spoke to us. He passed away last year. He was a baseball sports psychologist, very famous. And you know about Ken Revisa. And
Ken's badass, man.
Ken's about it.
So he spoke to us directly. Come on, get on the mound, bitch. But I didn't really know that I had whatever anxieties and all these things, and I was ruminating and thoughts that weren't happening, and I wasn't in the moment. But Matt Rossman, I remember he had such a good dialed routine, and not to say that his talent wasn't in line with his routine. It was just like everything kind of converged at a perfect place.
Right.
And he had such good performances, I believe, because of his mental fortitude and his routine and his strength and it mentally. And it was something that I was like, man, I wish I could have dialed that in when I was playing. I wasn't consistent. I played much better against better competition, and I played like crap against crappy people. And I have no idea. That makes no sense that I could strike out the All-American home run leading guy at Texas and then give up a home run to some guy at Monterey Bay. It makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. But here we are in life, and it's nonsensical. So obviously you had, 2020, you have to pivot. Can you talk a little bit about you represent Team USA, and representing Team USA, you can be the best person in the United States for your specific weight class, but you may not be able to go to the Olympics. Why is that? Can you break that down? I don't understand it. What is the thought process behind that, and why is it so competitive to make the Olympic team on an international level?
Right. I think the majority of athletes don't even understand it. It's so confusing, right? So our trial process goes, okay, you win at nationals, you have to make it into the top 6 of your weight class at nationals. Mm-hmm. And then after that, those same top 6 months later will be fighting each other for who's going to represent the team for that year. And then the top 2 are on the national team. This first and second are eligible to go to the Pan American Championships, which is all the countries within the Americas, North, South, Central. And then the first place individual is eligible to go to the World Championships, but only the first place. But then now, once you've made it onto the U.S. team pool, so that means first, second, third, you're eligible to also compete on what we call the Premier League circuit. So just like, it's like our Grand Prix, right? Anybody that knows, right? You have competitions all over the world. It's a circuit, calendar, you go through it. And at those tournaments, you essentially get X amount of points based off of your performances, right? So you have like a participation point. It's like 75 points. And then based off of how many matches you win or like what medal you get more points. And those points affect your world standing. Mm-hmm. And now your world standing is how we qualify for the Olympics. So karate is technically an interim sport, which means it's not going to count towards the medal count at the Olympics because it's its first time in. But because it's also its first time in, there were some rule changes. We actually have 5 weight categories right now, but it's cut down to 3 for the Olympics. So they take the 2 heaviest and combine those, and then the 2 lightest and they combine those. So just for ballpark figures, there's 500 people in each category within like the world rankings. So and I fight in light heavyweight. So that's under 84 kilograms, so 185 pounds. So we got combined with over 84. You know what I'm saying? So now not only is it the 500 in my group, but it's the 500 in the heavyweight group. So now out of 1,000 people, you have to be ranked within essentially the top 10 in the world in order to qualify for the games. So it's not an equal representation as far as like one person from each country. They're only having the top 10 people in the world go to the Olympics. So backtrack to where I started from. You have to win everything essentially on this stepping stone to get. So I like me, I'm on the national team, but right now my current world ranking is not high enough to be within the top, those guys that are going to the Olympics. So I'm on the same U.S. team that, Michael Phelps, all these other awesome badass people are on, but I'm technically not qualified for the games at this point just because my ranking is not high enough.
And that's because you're competing against heavyweights too, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah. So it's not only the point percentages within my weight class, it's also the point percentages within like everybody within heavyweight.
Yeah. I mean, this is the same old thing, right? And it also, it is just so hard to get to to get to the games. And that's because karate got brought back because of Tokyo, right? And they wanted that sport in there, right? And that's right. It's heritage, right? It's a heritage sport a little bit in Tokyo. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. So with we got, what was it? Skateboarding, karate, and surfing were the 3 sports that were brought in for this round of the games. But I don't know. It doesn't look like we have a very good chance to make it for the 2024 games for Paris right now. So if anybody listening to this has any power, please
come on
support. We got to make it back to another games. You know what I'm saying? So we got to try.
Breakdancing is a sport.
Breakdancing.
That's an Olympic sport in 2024.
That's why we're working. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm kidding. Everything. Or everything's a sport. Head spins are sport. Dude, do you have to go, or do you have to bounce? We're still
we're good. We're showing love to we're showing love to the pup right now.
Okay, sorry. Hey, dog walk. Let's show him. Come on.
He's a big guy.
Oh, is he a big boy? Can you lift him up?
Let me see. He's
lift him up like a heavyweight.
Little salty today. Oh! This is George. Yeah, this is George.
Oh, hello, George. Jorge. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. He's my pup. He's 7 months old. He's already 60 pounds. So yeah.
Oh my God. What a cute buddy. Oh my goodness.
This is my training partner here.
Oh my gosh. I need to get a dog. So
now I guess we found out. So this is sort of this interim year is challenging. It's controversial. I believe maybe Paris will bring it there, or at least 2028 it might come back. Either way, you're still on team, repping Team USA, which is dope. Now you were I read you're one of 3 U.S. athletes to receive a Pan Am Games medal upgrade, and tell us about that story if you can. What was it like for you? Obviously there was someone who was doping or something. Can you kind of go into that and what did it feel like?
Definitely. So Pan American Games is like the Olympics, but just for like our half of the world, put it that way. It happens every 4 years, just like the Olympics does, and it's all the sports. Everybody's there. There's an athletes village. It was in Lima, 2019. It was my first Pan American Games, and the qualification process for that was also extremely rigorous. It was like a 13 or 14 month process in order to qualify to go to the games. So you had to win gold at 3 separate events in order to make it to that one. And thank God that's what happened to me. And and I got there, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience to be part of, like, you felt really like a Team USA athlete. We had like our own section, and everybody was there. There was some awesome athletes, swimmers. I was rooming with some archers. I'm sorry, not ski shooters, archers. And like, they were super cool. Yeah, it was awesome. It was like, the experience itself was great. And the competition went well. I ended up taking silver. I hadn't had any points scored on me the whole event, with the exception of that final match, which it wasn't a point that was scored on me. It was like an exchange that happened. We both punched each other, and like, his coach threw up a challenge card, so you can do that to have like a video review to see if the referees who were in the match made a mistake or not. And I did it at the same time, and my punch got called as a no, and his punch got called as a yes. And that was how the match finished out. So it was 1-0 him. And it was like a controversial call only because, if I'm honest, neither of our punches were really that good. But if someone made more contact, it was me in the moment. Like, it was this jammed up tight punch, but his went past my head to where mine hit on his chin, and they gave him the point and me the no. Lo and behold, I'm not gonna complain about that. Or it was like,
I'll complain. Formal complaint has just been filed.
But it was a good experience, and like, that was we had a stadium there. It was like several thousand people. It was a blast, man. It was like, the experience itself was great. And like, honest to God, that was my appreciation for the moment was beyond another level. And making it to the finals was great. I remember just talking to my dad on the phone after we were waiting to go to get the medals. And I was like, honestly, I was happy, but I'm just upset that I couldn't bring back the gold for everybody back home, because, so much people invest time and money and everything into me. And I'm reaching for something right now, but you'll see in just a second. But then, about 6 months, 5 months later, I just finished a workout, and then I get a call that says, hey, from the CEO of USA Karate. And he was like, hey, so yeah, the guy that won got caught for, doping. I was like, what?
What?
He's like, yeah, you're now the Pan American Games gold medalist. And then I was like, okay, boom. And then we got
So explain. And so wow, not only did he get a kind of, let's just call it a BS point. We'll just say you hit him on the shin. It's in addition to that, I mean, insult to injury, he also was cheating.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm.
So you beat it cheating. So hold on. So what was the doping? What was the sauce?
Honestly, I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like, usually, so USADA is like the United States Anti-Doping Agency. Yeah. They always come out with exactly, like a public report. But the WADA is called like World Anti-Doping Agency. They don't usually. So I didn't really go out of my way to fight. I was just too stoked I got the medal. I was like, I don't really care what he was on at that point.
He was caught.
So I was, if anything, at that point, I was like, damn, I really wish I beat him now, because then if he got caught and I beat him, that would have been money. That would have been amazing. Right? So, no, but it was good. And I mean, Yeah, I pride myself on being a clean athlete, and and a lot of us do. So for athletes that are in that, on that end of the spectrum, we like when athletes that do have a competitive advantage get caught for it. So
yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, it's just, I feel like, have you seen Joey Greco, Cheaters? Have you seen that show?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
wouldn't that be great if Joey
following around?
Wouldn't that be great if Joey Greco did this to like athletes who are
just
cheaters? You've been caught.
Yeah. We caught you with with 6 needles in your right butt cheek. It's just like
HGH. Ever heard of it?
So I think this is a great time. So we're going to segue to, we kind of already delved into it a little bit, but our second chance section, which is our Stop the Stigma section. We're going to take a moment to be grateful for moments like these where we can have a sip of coffee. The Broken Dove podcast is sponsored by Kilo. Kilo app takes a qualitative approach to tracking your mental health by analyzing the quality of your sleep, workout, diet, even libido. Kilo keeps me dialed in. Kilo motivates me to work hard in and out of the gym. It also helps me maintain relationships and keep perspective, because no matter how bad you got it, someone has it worse. And trust this, we need you out there. Maybe do it for your son, your student. Do it for someone you've yet to meet, your inner savage. Dig in and do work. Kilo, building better humans. Back in. Obviously, martial arts, it's a mental game. We talked about it. I struggle sometimes with my own mental health. Even this last week, I was really worked up, and it's a battle, like finding the way to work within our minds. You're getting your master's in sports psychology or mental strength and fitness. I don't know, but it's important, whatever the term. I mean, you're helping yourself and others overcome the roadblocks in your mind. So how have you noticed? Obviously, you talked about how you struggled in your when you were in your teens and coming out of it into your 20s. How have you helped others with the knowledge that you've gleaned through University of Colorado?
Yeah, and so University of Colorado is my undergrad. Now I'm at Adams State University, which is the smaller. Yeah, it's just a smaller school out in the middle of nowhere. But I'm going through their online program, which is it's badass. And I use that. I don't use that term. I use it a lot, but I don't use it lightly. Like, it's a great program. And honest to God, I use it every single day. So I coach our competitive team, which travels. I have several athletes who are on the junior national team right now. I have several athletes that I work with who have gone through very hard times, whether it's depression, anxiety, and all those other things, or I have a mentorship program that I have several kids on, and like, that's what I'm geared towards, right? So, like, obviously I want to help athletes that are high level or like the same as me, if not even higher level than me. But I think I try to come from like a holistic standpoint, right? So, like, if you help younger individuals out and give them the tools that they can use, that's going to be with them for life. So hopefully when they do get to those high level points, whatever it may be, whether it's with karate or they go into their own industries, they can use those same skills and then help or boost up what their own performances are,
Great. And so you've already done it. You have a mentorship program. So that's great. And so and how do you destigmatize it? Do you say, like, hey, mental strength is really important? It's everything. I know that my coach in college had us looking and talking to blades of grass, which was, you can't get much wilder than that. I mean, talking to grass. But what do you do specifically in your dojo?
I just try and talk to them like people. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't go in there and be like, all right, we're gonna like work on your mental skills. It's more like, let's just talk. What are you struggling with? What's going on? And more than anything, I just want to be a person that other people feel comfortable with. And as a sensei to, over like hundreds of kids, like, that's what I would want to. Obviously, I can't help each individual one every single day and stuff like that. But if anybody's struggling with anything, like, I look at everybody as a person before the athlete or before the doctor or before the whatever, like, and that's how I try and approach it. So, like, there was one kid in an example who came in and he was just like, man, I've been to like several psychiatrists and psychologists and, you know, they can't help me and I'm doing this. And I was just like, well, sit down and let's just have a chat. Like, I don't care, man. Like, I don't care about anything else. Like, let's just talk. And he was just like, what? Like, you're not going to start telling me about the things I need to fill out or anything like that? And I was like, no, I just want you to sit down and tell me what's happening. You know? And then based off of that, you know, just based off of that, then we can come up with like, if I need, like a lot of times, man, like people don't need a formal, like we need to do this skill and this skill and this skill. Like it's sometimes it's just, you just sit there and talk. I'm like, you just need to believe in yourself. And that's really about it. Like, do something with intention. And they're like, wait, what? I can do that? I'm like, yeah, that's it. Done. Go. That's it, you know? So, that's how I don't come from, like, I don't come with the approach of like, you need to work on your mental skills. It's more like, let's just make you a good person and then mental skills will come with it.
Yeah, and be in the present, kind of, it sounds like.
It's always, man, always, you know, and like I think that's I have the same, like that's an issue for me too. Like thinking about what's in the past, what's in the future, what's gonna happen later today, what am I eating for my next meal? You know, it's like all this stuff, right? And like especially with the younger ones, like I noticed that like I hate to put the blame on like social media, but like we're exposed to so many things and like these kids are intuitive, man. They're smart, they're intuitive, they're with it, and they pick up things quickly, you know, and to compare them, you know, compare a 15-year-old kid to someone who's already 25, you know, and they look at that person, they're like, I need that now. Otherwise I'm not going to be happy. Right. Like, what do you think is going to happen at that point? You know? So just realizing I'm like, dude, you're 15, you're 10, you're 18, just focus on this, be this age, be you right now, and the other stuff will happen, you know. So
yeah, it's interesting.
You got like Eckhart Tolle has the, you know, the power of, he wants you to be now. Is it the power now? Right. The power
right.
You have
yep.
also Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now.
Be here. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Be here now. So a lot of these guys that they're getting obviously various Eastern philosophies and bringing them to the West in their own ways, or just through psychedelic experiences or out-of-body experiences. And it seems that all come down to the present, and that is the gift that we all get, right? But yeah, thanks so much for sharing your experience, and I think that the stigma is just like getting out of the discomfort with talking about it, and even having that conversation that you're just sitting down. That is the hardest part,
right?
With one of your student athletes and discussing that, like, yo, dude, it's not that weird. Just find a routine, be in the moment. When you kick. I don't want you to be thinking about your punch when you kick, you punch, and when you're warm up. Don't worry about your fight that happened previously. Obviously, you probably had, after that game, when you know your match in the Pan Am games, and you got that weird punch. Imagine there was so much going on. Like, what could I have done differently? What this moment? I can't imagine that. Was there anything in that section where you're like, dude, regret? And then all of a sudden to have this moment where you realize that the whole thing was a ruse. I can't imagine. I'm just, my mind's circling, just visualizing what I would be like in your place. Also, to see a punch, like a jam up punch where you hit the guy, what a unique thing. Did you have any moments where you're replaying that in your head, or was it just like it happened and you moved on?
I mean, obviously, like that, it was eating at me, right? So I'm an extremely competitive person. Mm-hmm. Like, if I lose, I want to lose to someone that beat me, you know, and like I respect that, you know. And in the moment, like, I think in the moment of the match, like my mental skills kicked in at that point. And talking to I mentioned him earlier, Coach Akira, like that, he's my mentor, and he was I talked to him probably twice a day, every single day while I was in Peru for the event. And I just remember him saying, like, everything's supposed to happen, you know, what's supposed to happen is going to happen. You just need to go out and be yourself. And so then that's in the moment, like, that's what happened, right? I got hit and I was like, this sucks, but well, there's still a minute and a half left. Let's run this thing, you know, let's go get it, you know. And obviously, you know, it didn't work out, and I didn't score any points, but I was like, I'm gonna put this guy through hell in order to, like, he's got to win. He's got to take this from me. Like, there's not going to be that moment. And that's just kind of where I went to, you know. And I was like, if I lose, I lose. Like, it's not, I've lost before. It's not like a new thing, you know? So, and, you know, I went for it, and, you know, and the result of the match was what it was. And I think the one thing that I went back to, like, obviously, right, I was like, man, if I had just put myself in a different position, like, what could I have done to like better position myself to score a point after that happened, right? All of those things, right? Like, they come through. But I'm just like, I had to stop myself in my post-performance routine. So after I perform, right, my routine after that. And I just remembered, I was like, well, what's supposed to happen happened, and this is time for me to grow, right? Obviously there's going to be things to get better from. And the people who always loved me still loved me, whether I got the medal or not, and that's where I went back to. And I came back to the dojo, and these little kids, they don't give a crap. Like, they're like, well, what game are we going to play for class? Like, they don't care, man.
I don't know. Where were you?
Yeah, it's like, why did you leave? You were supposed to help me get ready for my belt test. Like, what? Like they don't care. They're just doing their thing. So like, and that was kind of like I think that theme kind of stayed throughout. And then obviously like getting the call that it happened, I was like, oh, heck yeah, that's great. That's amazing, but it doesn't take away from the fact that, we're still living life. We're still going. And I think I'm not trying to go off on a tangent here, but like, that's what I got caught up with in like trying to get ready for the games. Like, man, the Olympics is this, the Olympics is that, Olympics is everything. If I don't make it to the Olympics, I'm obviously a failure. Right. And like all these thoughts, right. And like, hold up. Life doesn't I don't just like die after the Olympics, right? Like life continues, life continues, and we have to look for like improvements throughout life, not just this little pinpoint moment, right? So that was kind of the approach that everything's been sticking with, is like being in the moment, but like improving for the future as well.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Wow, bars.
I was like, it was like a lot, right?
No, poetry. No.
I mean, honestly, you only lose. When you lose, you learn, right? That's one of the things. And if you only lose when you quit, so you didn't do either of those things, you actually won and you learn. So it's always a benefit. And so I think this is great. Thanks for opening up about that section. I think is awesome. Now we're going to like kind of like a rapid fire, which is
let's do it, man. Let's change it up.
Yeah. No. Also, rapid fire is like if this, if there was like a playoff. So this is a quick one. These will be just as fast as you can. Just boom, 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 as quick as you can. Don't think.
Wait, give me an hour and a half. I need to go through my pre-performance routine.
Yeah, right. All right, so here we go.
Karate Kid or Cobra Kai?
Both.
Okay, you got to choose one.
I got to choose one?
Oh,
man. New Age Johnny Lawrence.
Okay, Wonder Boy or Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman.
Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua?
Anthony Joshua.
Okay, Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali?
Praise to the OG, Muhammad Ali.
You gotta get it. Klitschko or Tyson?
Ooh.
Right?
Klitschko.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna get heat for it, but I like him. He's just a big man.
Right?
He's just a big man.
Klitschko fight Tyson in their prime, like both of them.
That would be a good matchup. That would be a sick matchup.
So cool. Okay, Joe Frazier or George Foreman?
Joe Frazier.
Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis.
Ooh, Evan.
Right. Buster Douglas or Busta Rhymes?
Busta Rhymes. Let's go. We were throwing bars earlier.
Yeah.
Logan Paul or Money Mayweather?
Money in the bag.
Right. Favorite song to work out to?
Anything EDM.
Okay, cool. Burger or hot dog?
Burger.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Post weight training meal?
Post weight training meal.
Yeah.
Oh, like lifting?
Lifting, yeah.
Oh, man. We got our Vega-based protein shake with almond milk. Throw some creatine in that. Get the berries, and then 3 scrambled eggs.
Boom. That's also probably a plug. I feel it. There's a sponsorship.
Is that
No,
it's not.
No. I wish. We're not that cool yet. We're still working up to that.
Well, Cam, I do want to say thanks so much for we went a little bit over. We had some technical difficulties. So guys, please go follow. Believe in the punch.
That's
BLEAV.
BLEAV. Believe that. Believe in the punch. Obviously, Karate Cam on Instagram.
On Insta.
At Karate Cam with a K, and that's KAM on Instagram. Do you want to plug anything else? Your website,
Yeah, KamranMadani.com. I'm not much of a Twitter guy. I'm not on there. KamranMadani.com. You can see everything, stay up to date with like news, events, seminars that I might be teaching, anything like that. But the podcast is getting up and running. Please go support that. And of course, follow this one. Danny's the man. So thank you.
Danny's the manny. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Broken Up Podcast is executive produced by Ellen Utrecht, edited by Meagan Solano. Audio by Dory Bavarsky and artwork by Niv Bavarsky. Please like, subscribe, follow, stalk, DM, love them all. They're amazing. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your rave reviews, your shares, your comments, your spam to your friends, your email blasts, your Clubhouse chats about this episode. Thank you so much. We appreciate all the love, the merits, the accolades, the attention, and most importantly, the thumbs up. Talk soon. We're out.